Sorry I'm late.
Don't worry, you're fine. We're live.
Hi, Salima. Hi.
Fab. All right, so we'll get started. So thank you everybody for joining the 2022 Office Management Awards Judges Panel discussion. That's a mouthful, isn't it? So Lucy and Salima are here. Lauren, I know, will be back online in just a second. So yeah, welcome and thank you to you guys as our judges from 2021, but also for 2022, because you've all agreed to do it again for us, for joining today. We really wanted to take a moment when we went live for the 2022 entries and nominations to share the experiences of the judges and I suppose their top tips really and tricks for you and your entries for this coming year and going forward. There's Lauren, she's back with us. Yeah, so we're going to walk you through that. I'm going to probably leave it to you guys to do most of the talking in that area. So before we make a start, if it's okay, Lucy, I'll start with you. Can you introduce yourself and let us know what category you judged this year?
Yes, absolutely. Well, a very, very, very big warm welcome to everyone that's tuning in and for anyone that watches this recording later. Lovely to be here with you. And I had the most amazing experience judging these awards in the last season of these awards. It's incredible. And I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to judge the overall Office Manager of the Year award, which was the most incredible honour. And who am I? Well, I've worked with admin and support professionals for the last 23 years now, both in my role running and having founded and running a training and development organisation called CNC Academy, and in my recruitment, my recruitment hat on as the founder of CNC Search. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Salima, we'll go to you next. If you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Salima Sharif. I'm what's known as the head of HR of a service delivery function in an organisation. And a bit like Lucy, I've worked with various different colleagues of mine in this role, in other roles that are within the banner of office management. And I fundamentally believe the roles that sit under the banner of office management are really the glue that makes an organization work. Sometimes they're the unsung heroes. Portfolios are big. If we think about what's gone on in the last 18 months to almost 2 years, they've really helped prop up organizations with a very rapidly changing context and environmental impact out there. And I was lucky enough to judge the Newcomer of the Year and Manager of the Year.
Perfect, thank you. And Lauren, over to you to introduce yourself, please. You're on mute.
Of course I am. Of course I am. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Bradley. I'm the founder of The Officials, where we empower admins and assistants through community courses and coaching. I'm a corporate trainer. I'm a mentor. I am an assistant, and I'm an award-winning assistant. And I won that award while being an office manager. And I was a judge last year. I was in charge of, I helped judge the hybrid office management role, which was amazing because I think so many of us, I think all roles are basically a hybrid role these days. And as Salima said, this has been an incredible time. And everyone really has had to pull their weight and figure out how to redefine what office means and how to keep the office together, especially when so many times we've had to be remote and so many safety regulations that you now have to watch. Now, thank God we have Hannah to help us keep up on all those things. But if this is not an award-winning year for every office manager, I don't know when is. So I'm really excited here to tell you how I was able to secure an award, what we look for as judges, and just to help you understand the value you bring and why you should go for these awards.
Absolutely, yeah, fully agree with that. So I'd like you guys just briefly to tell me about your experiences as judges for the first ever Office Management Awards. You can talk about the ceremony, which I know Lucy and Salima were able to come to. Lauren unfortunately wasn't. And before we go any further, I must give apologies from Lindsay and Yvette. Adrian may join us shortly. He might be running a bit late, so he may hop on. But they have had to send their apologies last minute today, so it might just be the four of us. But yeah, so first of all, maybe to Salima first, if you can tell us about your experiences of the first year's awards in terms of the judging process and perhaps also the ceremony and the general feeling and atmosphere that was at the ceremony and the winners' reactions?
In terms of if I started with the judging process, myself and my fellow judge, we actually took a lot of time running through every single answer, every single question, just to make sure that we were reading it correctly. Because, there can be words and phrases that when you really look at them within the context of where people were working and what was going on at the time, we need to make sure that we were giving them the right level of weightiness around them. So it's actually quite a detailed process, and you go through various iterations of that. And I'm sure Hannah will be potentially coming on talking about tips for people, so I might leave my tips until later on, if you don't mind. So it's very, very detailed. We look at the answers to the questions, we iterate and reiterate. And I think what was really amazing for me was just to see, and you can listen to the words coming off those applications of what people had truly achieved and the recognition that their colleagues, their managers had given on their impact of what they had done. Sometimes it's not even so much the what, it's the impact that an individual has had and how they went about doing it. And the how is sometimes even bigger than the what they actually did. So that's one of my sort of, recollections that I had. If I think about the evening itself, look, I'm so glad, Hannah, you organized it when you did, because we could have it in person, which was wonderful. It was very clear that for some of us, it was the first time we'd gone out. So we were really happy to see human beings. I think great sort of team atmosphere where individuals who'd nominated others were also there. Obviously, they were the nominees. And I think it was a really great recognition for all the nominees, as well as the people who actually were the eventual winners as well. So I think it was just a really great way of bringing the community together, people together, acknowledgement, recognition, a bit of a celebration as well. And also it was a really great night out. So that's what I would say, Hannah.
Perfect, thank you. Lauren, we'll come to you next on your experience of the first year's process.
Again, I want to agree with Salima in that the part about the impact and the stories that we were reading. So when I saw, Hannah, kind of told us a little bit about how this would be laid out. And I was thinking about what I would say for this question. And what came up instantly in my mind was, it was hard. It was really hard to choose winners. And there is a whole judging matrix, and it makes it a little bit easier. But when you hear everyone's stories, and especially having been in that role, I felt for every single person. And I thought they were genuinely all winners because the impact they had made to their companies was so wonderful. And there was varying levels of what they were involved in or what they put on their application of how big someone might deem a project, but it was how the company felt about it, how the value was perceived, the value, even if it wasn't perceived in a certain way, but that you could see the value that it brought to the company. And having been in that role, it was, I just wanted to hug everybody. I wanted to meet everyone. I was like, wow, why are you so amazing? And that was hard. So that would say in a word, that was my first impressions of judging last year.
Yeah, brilliant. Lucy's just asked everybody an interesting question on the chat. So I'm really keen for everyone on the line as attendees to answer that. And you can change to just answer it just directly to us as panelists if you want to. So Lucy, tell us about your experiences for the first year, please.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, you would never have known it was the first year. I think anybody entering these awards will realise the level of professionalism, and Hannah, you pour your heart and soul into these awards, and we can also see why you do what you do, because it's quite clear that your passion and purpose and what you're delivering is exactly where you should be. So, gosh, the evening itself, super glamorous. A huge celebration, and what I noticed was that every single person in that room felt a sense of connection to one another. We also all felt that level of excitement, which was the recognition of office managers. Now, I talked to so many support staff professionals that have that sense of being othered. we hear all the time, well, they're the glue, they're the driving force, these are the people making things happen. But in terms of that level of recognition for what they do, it's often lacking. And I think that specifically there's been a lot of PA and EA awards, but where the office management specifically, where the office managers specifically been held up, empowered, highlighted, raising that recognition around this is a profession, that it's not just a job, this is a profession, and deserves being looked at as such. And I think that what I really felt coming away from that evening was that you had achieved that sense, and that the sense of occasion that was attached to the evening was just extraordinary. I mean, I've never known anyone host a first year award ceremony that was like that. Live music, beautiful 3-course meal, dinner and dancing, black tie. So if for no other reason, and I'm joking by the way, but for one of the reasons you might want to note down is just to experience that level of community, that coming together, that level of celebration. And I left feeling utterly empowered. And I know that you would too, if you were to join us next year.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for the lovely compliments. It was fantastic in terms of that community feel, because you know there were people there who had met at some of our previous events but hadn't seen each other for the whole of COVID. So bringing them back together was amazing. But then we had the VIP reception at the start, didn't we, where all the judges, the sponsors, but then also all the finalists were together without any other guests. And that was a real connecting moment for them, because they were finding out, what they were finalists for. And some of them were in the same categories, some of them were in different categories. And everybody just connected and was behind each other and backing each other. And it didn't matter who won, who were runners up, who were finalists. Everybody was just supporting each other. So it was really wonderful, because every single person did get recognised, celebrated, and ultimately rewarded that night. So yeah, that was exactly what we intended to do. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through some of the categories for the 2022 awards, because we've added some new ones here for this year and taken a couple away for ease. So we've still got the Office Manager of the Year. You can't really not have that one. But we've introduced International Office Manager of the Year. So I hope some of you guys on are from outside of the UK. And if you're
Lauren's loving that one.
Yes, I know. Because this year she was like, is it just UK office managers? And I was like, yes. And then there were some entries from US office managers, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
I know so many office managers in the US that need this award, or anywhere, actually all over the world. But I know so many, and they're like, oh, is this just, they asked me so many when we were talking about last year, is this just in the UK? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And even this year, I didn't know until today that it was international. So I'm so excited. Well done.
So yes, we have launched International Office Manager of the Year. So globally outside of the UK, so you can't be in the UK to enter that one. You would enter Office Manager of the Year or Newcomer, any of the others. So that's really exciting. And we have already got some entries from international office managers. So I'm really delighted that we've done that. Hybrid Office Manager of the Year is the one that Lauren judged. So that is your PA, assistant EA, office manager role, or you might be HR manager, an office manager, or finance manager, an office manager. Essentially, office manager plus another role or two roles, whatever it might be, where you really are that glue, as I think Lucy referred to and Salima in the company. The Remote Office Manager of the Year, given the situation and the climate we're in and the way that things are going forward, we know that a lot of our members and a lot of office managers, again, around the world, because this is a global one, have gone fully remote in their roles, are perhaps more remote than not. And perhaps they have like a serviced office or a co-working space that really they're not in a lot of the time. So that is for that category. So anyone that's gone remote. Manager of the Year, which we had last year, and Salima was the judge there, won by Wade Taylor. So yeah, anybody that manages a direct report or more. So you need to be a manager of at least one other individual. The newcomer of the year, which was won by Jess, who humbly accepted that one, bless her. Very shocked. That was the first one announced, wasn't it? And she was very shocked. But yeah, so under 3 years in an office management role, that's the newcomer one. Over 3 years, office manager of the year. That's the kind of differentiator between those two. And then project of the year. So we've amalgamated procurement project and project this year to bring them into just one category. So if you have taken part or managed a big project or a small project, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter how much money was behind it, time, or the size of it. If you have been charged with a project where you've been heavily involved in the project, then that is a category to put yourself forward for. And then we've got our 3 supplier categories as the same as with this year. So office management supplier of the year, service provider, and fit out contractor. So if you guys on the line are office managers and you're working with these companies, so to give you examples, cleaning companies, fit out companies, Cake Drop won supplier of the year who deliver cakes to offices and postal cakes and things, catering companies, coffee machine suppliers, you know, your engineer, your handyman, these kind of companies, anybody that services and supports your office and supplies goods and has done fit out work with you over the last couple of years, you can nominate them for an award, and some of those go to public vote. So you can enter up to 2 awards this year. So have a look at the categories on our website for more information on each of those and the criteria, and then put yourself forward or request to be nominated or share the information with your manager so you can get nominated for 2. So they are the 2022 award categories. So now I'm going to ask you guys to share your top tips, if you will, please, for entries and things that people should be looking out for. And some prompts I've got here are: what are you as judges looking for in your entries? And what is your top tip for anyone entering this year's awards? And then I'll ask the other prompts in a second, actually. So Lucy, I'll start with you this time, if that's okay, please.
Yeah, of course. And actually, it's interesting just seeing a couple of the comments about what might hold you back from entering these awards. And I really deeply understand that sense of, well, surely there's other people better than me out there, or someone else is going to win and not me, and all those things that come up whenever we put ourselves into a situation which isn't the norm. You know, we're not normally putting ourselves out there in that way, and it can make us feel quite vulnerable. But the first thing I would say is that if you don't do it for yourself, do it for other office managers. Do it for the people that are coming up behind you. So for the people that need to see it to be it. So even if you don't feel able to really do it just with yourself as the motivator, then look at it as a service to the industry and to those that are coming up behind you career-wise. And I would really encourage you to get comfortable with exploring what your zones of genius are and really highlighting those, almost looking at your career as an office manager as an Instagram reel. What are the highlights? What are the shiny bits? What are the places where you didn't think you'd overcome a challenge, but you did? And if you need that extra boost of confidence, ask those around you. Ask, you know, perhaps people that you've worked with or your line manager, when were the moments I made the most impact? When were those times that you really felt I went above and beyond? And ask yourself those questions too. So I would encourage you to go and grab half an hour, you know, get some peace and quiet and just really reflect. What have I really delivered on? Where have I made impact? When did I make the most difference? When did I really have to upskill or up level in order to meet a challenge? And get comfortable with owning those zones of genius. Because we need that as judges to really feel that passion and enthusiasm and to picture what you achieved and what you went through to get there. But also it's hugely impactful in terms of your own self-esteem and all of those ripple effects that come from moments when we really own what we've delivered in life. So I would say grab hold of that highlights reel of your career, brainstorm, draw pictures, however you best get ideas out, and then translate that onto paper. But ask those around you as well. So, you know, you might call it a 360 review. And don't be afraid to let yourself shine, because who are you not to really step into your full capability, and owning your brilliance is part of that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love Lauren's comment just now, because it's a mindset shift, and I think that is so powerful, and I think it kind of continues on from what you're saying, is getting into that zone of positivity and genius rather than a zone of negativity, which is I can't, I won't, etc. It's actually I can and I will, and I think that's really powerful. So fab. All right, well, Lauren, we'll come on to you next, because you might pick up further on that point then.
Yeah, so I think this is something that we could learn from professional athletes who somebody said in here, I'm afraid I won't win. Well, that's like a football player saying, well, I don't kick the ball at the goal because I might not score. You have to keep kicking the ball at the goal, and eventually it's going to go in. So, and I think of awards applications much like I think of CVs. And in that you have to really read the description of what is required of you, because just so you guys know, behind the scenes in the categories, there are specific questions, and behind the scenes as a judge, it is broken down into those questions. Have they satisfactorily answered this question, or have they done this thing? And so really read what is being required of you. So that's the first piece of advice I would say, is know what you're looking at, know what the goal looks like, how big is it, what ball are you working with. It's the same thing. Know exactly what you're applying for. And to go on from what Lucy said is then think about those stories that apply to that role or that award that you are applying for. So if it is hybrid office manager of the year or remote office manager of the year, if it's remote office manager of the year, you're going to have stories about how you as a remote office manager were able to keep the company together, keep the culture together, make sure everyone was safe, keep everyone connected. So really think about the things that you did.
I think you've just taken most of the questions from the form away there.
Sorry.
There is literally one about how did you keep everyone connected?
I didn't even read it yet for the remote one. So this is, I'm assuming, we know what it's like to be, we know this. So really make sure that you are answering the questions. And I just want to say, remember, I won an award, and I literally just helped coach someone who was up for an award that won the assistant of the award, that very recently on LinkedIn won the award of the night, because all I did was tell her these exact same secrets I'm going to tell you now. So make sure that you're answering the question that's on there. 2, what we said about the athletes, and you have to keep kicking at the goal. Eventually it's going to go in. So make sure you apply, and everyone feels the same way that you do. Everybody does. You would not believe how many people don't apply, especially when I've been involved in lots of award ceremonies where I am a judge, and you would think we would be flooded with applications. They are not. It's the same with any type of contest or anything. You think I'll never win. You have a much greater chance of winning than you think. The next piece of advice I have is tell those stories. So think, as Lucy said, think about those moments where you felt like you really changed the company for the better. Where did you have impact? Where did you create impactful, positive change? It literally could be that I've worked with assistants who said, well, I realized that there was no place to tell people how to use our technology. So I created a folder and just created instructions. What she did was create an onboarding process and a single source of truth, or a wiki for new employees to be able to quickly onboard themselves. It's the same thing I would tell you to say on your CV. It should be what you put on your application. So think about the way, that person, they just said, oh, I created a folder. What they did was create an onboarding process. So think about those types of things. Show your personality. That's one thing that really differentiates you. Sometimes you can see when someone's applying, they don't believe in themselves, that they're just ticking a box. Sometimes you can see someone's applying and they think they should win, and they didn't, because they didn't really do anything. Not that every assistant has done everything, but you can kind of tell that they just are just sitting in the chair, and they don't care about the impact they're making to the company. That's the concern. We want to see the impact that you're making to the company. Use social proof. even though you might be nominating yourselves, which just so you guys know, I nominated myself when I won that award. And I thought, why not me? I just thought, I think that more often than not, if I think I shouldn't, I bet you everybody else thinks they shouldn't apply. So why not me? I'm going to do it and see what happens. So make sure that you do that. And then I thought, well, how can I help this? And so I just asked other people, I grabbed other people's opinions. We used to have something called Tiny Pulse where I worked, and they could put like kudos to employees. Lauren, you did such a great job doing this thing. I copied and pasted that and put that in my application because it was social proof that I was doing my job. Even though those people didn't apply on my behalf, I made sure that I put that information in there so that I had the proof that I had been doing the job I was doing. And give us measurables. How many suppliers are you working with? How much time did you save your executive? If you save them 3 hours a day and you know how much they make a year or can estimate, tell us how much you think you save the company over a year. Give us measurables. Help us see what you've done. It's a lot more than you think. It's a lot more. So those are my big pieces of advice for everyone out there.
Thank you. Adrian, I see you've joined us. Everyone's trying to find the mute button today.
Yeah, apologies for being late.
That's all right.
The training session, which was overrun by half an hour nearly.
No worries.
No.
So I'm going to have to go and get my son because he is refusing to nap, and I will bring him in, but hopefully he will behave. So Adrian, do you want to share your tips for us on what you're looking for in the entries and what they the people that are considering, and hopefully it's everybody on the call today, are considering putting in their entries, and any advice generally that you can give for people going for it?
Really, the one thing that I found as being a judge, not only on these awards last year, but also on previous awards for other organisations, is I just find it very frustrating as a judge when people don't answer the questions properly, or don't read the question properly, and sort of read the first part of the question and then go off and answer that, but then move on straight on to the next question without sort of rereading the question and understanding that perhaps it's got 2 or 3 parts to it. And that's normally where I see certainly a lot of the award entries that I've judged in the past fall down. And I think, well, you haven't, and it's almost like someone's rushed to just that, it might well have been nominated or haven't put the time to it. And I think if you allow yourself a little bit of time and well, all that Lauren said just previously when I joined, I couldn't agree more with all that Lauren said, and confidence came out. I thought that was quite interesting because there should be no reason why you shouldn't have any confidence about entering the award, because I can tell you one thing: if you win it, your confidence goes through the roof. And so don't just not enter an award because you don't think you're going to win it. Firstly, it makes you understand, even by just going through the process, what you've achieved and what you've done. And a lot of people, don't win. There's only one winner at the end of the day normally, but and it shouldn't preclude you if you don't win the first year to re-entering, because it certainly gives you an awful lot of focus on what you've achieved and all the good stuff you've done as part of an organisation or in terms of what you've learned in the past. So I wouldn't let confidence get in the way at all, but just give yourself some time and read the questions and answer the actual question that gets asked, because, as I say, it's that's the common thing which I've seen, which as a judge, and be demonstrable. I know that Lauren said that as well. Stories, attachments, proof. So that makes a big difference to me as well.
I could not agree with you more. And I loved what you said about if you applied last year, apply again, because it's the same thing about, as I said, with CVs or with going to school and taking tests. What you're really learning is how to take the test. You probably are an amazing office manager. If you're following Hannah, you have to be an amazing office manager. What you're doing is getting better at learning how to apply to be able to articulate the value that you bring, which is, I think, what Adrian's trying to get to. And then also as judges, we have to look at the actual specifics of what is being asked. So help us do that, make our jobs easier. I totally agree with you. Hannah's just said that Noah's being a bit difficult with his nap. Being someone who's solo parenting this week as well, I completely understand. So I'm going to throw it to Salima to answer the same question. What are the same kind of questions, and what are your tips? What advice would you give everyone?
You know, guys, you've made my reply really easy and difficult at the same time. I would say yes to everything that you have just said, but I'll probably add a couple of nuances to it. So when I was preparing for this session, my first piece of advice was answer the question, which is essentially what Adrian has said. Think about the question that's being asked and answer every single factor of that question as well. Something that Lauren talked about. When you're reading an application, we want to be able to see your personality coming through. We want to be able to understand these are not just words on a piece of paper, but that real sense of who you are. And then the reason for that is when you are judging so many applications, whether it's 5 or whether it's 10 or 20, as human beings, sometimes the applications all merge into each other. But what I found was when you were looking back to something, there'd be a phrase, a word, a metric, or something somebody would say, and I'd go, oh, I would remember that application because of that. So it sounds a little bit corny, but it is around bringing your authentic voice into it and also making it sound interesting. And I think that's where Lucy's example around that narrative, around what you have done and the impact of what you did becomes really, really important. The other element I'll talk about, once again, Lauren talked about this, is around metrics and value coming out of it. And that value is sometimes not monetary, it can be So Lauren, I love your example of taking that on the sentiment feedback you'd got and putting that into an application, because it gives another layer of dimension of, don't just, it's almost like, don't just, listen to what I've said. This is what other people have said about the work that I do. So it provides that evidence that is really, really relevant as well. So metrics and relevant. I think the other piece of advice I'd say is, if you're applying on behalf of somebody else, or if somebody is going to be, if you're going to be applying yourself, plan your application. Don't rush it. Think about chunking those questions up in those chunkable elements, so you're not rushing the day before the deadline to do it. Chunk it up, maybe 2 questions a day, whichever works for you, so you're able to really think about the questions and what you want to say in those questions. So I've got nothing else different from what Lucy, Lauren and Adrian have said. We're trying to at least pull it all together. And certainly at the final piece, I'll say, reiterate what I said earlier on. Please have pity on us sometimes when we're reading so many applications and they do merge into each other, whatever we might say. Think about those interesting, distinctive one-liners, 2-liners that will stick in our minds around, I remember that application because they did X, Y, and Z, or she did this, or he did that, because it really does help us remember all the applications when you are reviewing them, sometimes one by one, or sometimes over a period of time. So that would be the other dimension, I would say.
That is brilliant. And I think you really, we're all kind of saying the same, because we know what it's like to be as judges. But I think one of the things you guys also maybe don't see, it looks like Hannah might be back. What you also don't see is that we don't just get your application. So if you're someone that didn't apply last year, we also get a bunch of proof of what you've done. So the more, like some people, as Adrian said, I think that's what I was trying to say before when I said some people you could tell they haven't done much. It's really that they rushed the application. They just were trying to get through it. That's what I'm trying to get to, is that someone just was like, I'll apply, and just did it as fast as they could and went through, instead of really thinking about what they've done and figuring out ways to show us that, because that's going to really make us help. It's going to help us connect the dots to what you did and the value you brought. And I think, hitting on that personality that you said, tell us why you love your job. Like, if we know why you love being an office manager, I am passionate about what I do. I love what I do. The best day on the job for me looks like this. That would make you That's totally unique to you. That's how you're going to stand out from everybody else. You're going to have a completely different story than anybody else if you say anything like that. And then also, I just want to say to anyone that, because there can only be so many winners, but as you can hear, that party was great. And I had COVID, which is the only reason why I missed it. I'm very upset about it. But I was able to give my ticket to a very worthy assistant that wasn't able to make it otherwise. And so I feel good about that. But it's a great networking opportunity and an amazing boost to connect with everyone around you and meet everyone that's on this panel. So please, even if you just apply for that, to be able to come to the big show and to rub elbows and have a great night just celebrating office managers, it's totally worth it. Hannah's back, so I'm going to hand it back to her. Hi,
Noah. With someone else who wants to talk about the awards, apparently. And he's sitting there nodding his head as you were talking then, Lauren, so he fully agrees. Yeah, so I mean, I managed to listen to everything that you guys were saying and fully agree. And I think one of the things that I know some of the winners and even some of the finalists and runners-up have done is use their entries as their appraisals or as a base for their appraisals for the next year, because it is such a similar process to go through and to reflect on what you've done. And like Lucy said, really take that time to figure that out. And as Lauren said, to figure out your passion and where that's coming through. You know, everybody always says how passionate I am about supporting office managers in this profession. And that's just in me. That's a fire that lights me up and drives me. And you guys will have that somewhere for an element of your jobs, be it doing an office move, be it onboarding new joiners and welcoming them and giving that tour. There'll be something out of all the different hats you wear that you really enjoy doing. And passion is one of the key words on the entry criteria for the judges to score on. So you've got a real top tip there, because it pretty much comes up in every single scorecard to say, can you feel the passion of this person? So that's a really good insight there from Lauren. Okay, so why would you guys advise people to enter? I'm going to go on mute as quickly as I can. Why would you guys advise people to enter? What can they get from it? And I think you know, Lauren's already mentioned her award. I know Lucy and Adrian have won awards as well. So you're talking to a few, and Salima, forgive me, I don't know if you have in the past, but you're talking to a few award winners. I was certainly up for Businesswoman of the Year. So yeah, why would you encourage people to enter?
Well, for me, yeah, I never in my wildest dreams thought about entering the award I won, which was Institute of Directors Director of the Year Award for London and the South East. And then I was then highly commended in the national finals for an SME business. And I looked at everybody else who entered, and I knew a couple of other people that had been shortlisted for the final. And I thought, there's no way I'm ever, you know, I don't compare to these guys, you know. Going back to the confidence piece that, you know, was being raised earlier, I didn't have, you know, I got put forward for the award. I took a lot of time and got a little bit, got some good mentorship as well around help in terms of putting my application in, but say going to the event and seeing the other people again, I'd never thought I had a hope in hell in winning, but to actually win, if you didn't have any confidence before, and I regularly refer back to my application for the national one and the London South East one, because it does give you so certainly when you're feeling a bit like, you know, the times have been hard, you know, everyone's had a bit of a difficult, certainly a huge, you know, not a great time over the last 18 months, but to look back on it and see what you've achieved and what you've done in a particular time frame is, and just to sit quietly and when you're putting that together and then refer back to is a great confidence building exercise. Yeah, I think that you, like most things, you put in, you get out what you put in, and if you're going to enter and just rush through the application, just to tick a few boxes and say you entered, then there's no point. But if you want to take yourself a little bit of time, think back and think through what you've done, and And say, using it for appraisals and CVs and LinkedIn profiles and all that good stuff. Just, take a minute to get off the wheel and sit back and just look at what you've done over the last year. And I think it'll pay dividends. I can't hear anyone. Oh dear.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Hannah.
Oh.
Sorry, he's pushed the button. Lucy, can we come to you next for your why, please? Thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, I mean, I could go on about this for hours, but I've just noted down 5 key reasons why you would, why awards are so important. And I think for me, I've won multiple awards, and they have, I think Lauren mentioned that this has changed the course of her career. And certainly for me, this is what I know to be true, that awards bring you, both from my own experience and from those I know that have also won awards or been recognised in this way. So career rocket fuel, there is no 2 ways about it. This will provide a big boost to your career opportunities. It's a fantastic fanfare for your capability. It's like a great big trumpet that's saying, yes, this person is employable, capable, an impact maker, somebody that is going to have deep influence and be able to create long-lasting change. It's brilliant for your profile. And we all know, whether we like it or not, we live in an age where profile is really critical to open doors. And I know that this is a profile raiser for you or anyone that's entering these awards will make differences in areas that you can't yet predict. What I mean by that is this is going to open doors, create opportunities, create connections that perhaps won't have been accessible to you until you put yourself out there and raise your head above that visibility line, get a bit vulnerable, but you will be amazed at the ripple effect that rewards have in terms of career opportunity and connection opportunity. So I've just noted career rocket fuel, profile raiser, recognition accelerator, opens multiple doors, a lot of which you won't yet know are closed to you, but will open, and create really powerful connections. So that is the reason why I would enter.
Wonderful, thank you. Salima, we'll come to you next, please.
I'm going to be really simple. Why not? I think from what you've said so far, you've got to be in it to win it. Even if you do the research, you think about it, you start filling it in, and for a variety of reasons you don't submit, and I would urge you to submit. I just think it's really good for your soul to really take a step back to see what you have accomplished, how you've accomplished it. And quite frankly, if you're going to do all of that work, you might as well fill it in and press the submit button as well. So my view is, why not? You've just got to do it. It's interesting. And, as Lucy said, you've got nothing to gain, nothing to lose, everything to gain and nothing to lose.
Absolutely. And Lauren, finally for you, please.
I cannot agree with Lucy and Salima more in that you didn't win right now because you never applied. So the only way you're going to find out if you win or if you're recognized or become a finalist, I mean, even just applying for one is a win. Becoming a finalist is another win. Winning is a win. And I know this is easy to say from someone who won an award, but also know I've put myself up for awards I did not win. Even after I was an award-winning assistant and I had all this social proof, I wasn't even considered as a finalist. But I had to be in it to win it, as Lucy said. And it's just, like I said, same with applying for a job. You should still apply for the job, whether you think, you don't just not apply for the job because you don't think you're getting it. Don't not kick the ball because you might not get it in the goal. This is the way that you get better at these things. So one, why not you? Why not you? And as I said, it's just the way you tell your story. One other tip is, imagine that you've just come out of a bad appraisal. When you walk away and you have all the words in an argument that you didn't have in the moment, imagine you just had a bad appraisal and the person was like, I don't understand the value of you. All of a sudden you get all huffy and puffy and say, well, I did this and I did that. You can come up with all the words then. Think of that if you need to when you're doing your review, because, or when you're doing your application, because if you are following here, you should be applying. If you follow Hannah, you care about your job, you care about your role. You are absolutely worthy of being recognized for these awards, and helping recognize our industry. You'll be a part of recognizing the industry. So I think that's my last piece of advice, and one of the big reasons why I think it's worth applying. And as I said, there's a big party at the end. So let us all just hang out and have fun. So apply, because we all need to recognize how great you guys are. And just the trajectory of my career being changed, it was because it changed my mindset. It made me finally believe that I was good. I was good enough. Even times that I became a finalist or not. So I think it wasn't that other people necessarily saw I was award-winning assistant, which helps, but it changed something in me. And so let us help you find that confidence. I dropped a YouTube link to Michael Cannon-Brooks. He owns, does anyone know Trello? Atlassian owns Trello, and he's one of the co-founders of Atlassian. And his whole story is about how he won awards like Adrian. An Institute of Directors Award is an amazing thing to win, no matter, regional, whatever, and to be recognized and highly commended is incredible. And basically in this story, Michael Cannon-Brooks says the same thing, how he just kept winning these awards, and he just thought he was like a hacker nerd. It is a very impactful story. It's a TED Talk. So please save that link and watch it after this and be inspired.
Thank you. And one of the things I will say is, for everyone who entered the 2021 awards, you'll know that we make every effort to give feedback on your entries as well. So everybody should have had some feedback from us, whether you won, whether you were runner-up, whether you're a finalist or not, as to your entry, and possibly some very high-level notes on what you can consider and what you can try to include next time. I'm just going to briefly read out, because Lindsay did prep for this, and I just want to share some of her tips before we go on any further. So she wants you to know that you should be proud of your achievements and let us know your reasons for nominating yourself. It goes without saying that your submission should be professional, good standard of English, well presented, reflective of the seniority and responsibilities of your role. Don't just limit yourself to a written application though, as they'd really like to see video applications that showcase who you are, which you can do. You can be creative, and your reasons for nominating yourself, as well as any other evidence. So I'm just going to move these things because it's making a lot of noise. Identify what you've done that makes you stand out from the crowd in a good way. What adversities and challenges have you had to overcome, and how? And oh my goodness, there have been some biggies in 2020, she says. So think about the barriers and obstacles you've come up against. What strategies, ideas, and initiatives have you spearheaded at your organisation that you're proud of, and what positive impacts, very much aligning to what Lucy said, have you initiated on behalf of your team and your organisation? And then evidence all of this to back up your claims and achievements, testimonials, this smile file, I think we talked about it when we were doing the awards last year. Anything that someone says that's positive about you and what you've done for the organisation or for that individual, you need to be saving those down and putting those into this application. What's the difference that makes a difference? You are the difference that makes that difference in your organisation. So what is it that you do contribute to the success of your team and business? Think about your everyday procedures. We tend to overlook the stuff we do every day. And imagine you're judging your own application. What feedback would you give? So that's from Lindsay. So hopefully those help as well. I think she's doing a blog on it to share in a bit more detail for us. So, no, sweetheart. So next, we're just going to go through key dates. So these are the dates that you need for your diaries for the 2022 entries. So the deadline is the 21st of January. It's a Friday. By midnight UK time, we need to have those in. And then the judges' sessions, which is basically where they get together individually, where they go through your applications individually to have a look at them, and then they score, and then they come together, and there may be a requirement to do interviews or Zooms or whatever with you as well, which will all be arranged accordingly. So that's the 7th to the 25th of Feb. And then the shortlist will be announced on Monday, the 7th of March at the latest. And then for the categories, which is just 2, the supplier and service provider ones, we open those up for public voting on Friday, the 11th of March, close it on the 29th of April. And the award ceremony, which is nice and highly spoken of, takes place on Thursday, the 16th of June at the Mayfair Hotel in London again. And for the international entrants, we'll be getting them on Zoom somewhat more successfully than we did last year, let's just say. Okay, so there's some key dates. So are there any questions from anybody, and opening up to the panel as well to see if there's anything else that you would like to add? We've got a question from Jess. So if you're nominating someone else, can you upload supporting material? Yeah, I think you can, but I'll have a look and I can easily change it so you can upload some files to that, Jessica. That's a really good point. So I'll open it up and add that in. Yeah, so you can nominate, you can enter. We obviously encourage you to do both. I know that last year there were office managers entering Office Manager of the Year and then nominating their junior office managers for things like Newcomer of the Year or Project of the Year, where they had taken part in projects. So absolutely, if you're in a senior position, think about what else you can do in terms of the nomination form rather than solely the entry form to empower and acknowledge and recognise your colleagues.
Hannah, when someone nominates someone else, does the nominee then get a chance to also give their own evidence?
Yes,
as well?
Yeah, so
that's probably good for them to know. Yeah,
it's one of those days today. It's just difficult.
The orange one.
Yeah, so there's 2 forms. So nominate is obviously
this
is orange, sweetheart, to put someone forward for an award. So it might be your manager that's putting you forward, or we've had old colleagues in the past putting people forward. He is in the terrible twos, and this is the terrible day today. But also, sorry, Lauren, can you repeat the question, please?
So, okay, so basically, if I was nominating my assistant, Marta, my office manager, Marta, let's say I was nominating her, does she then get notified and then able to give her own evidence as well, right?
Yeah. So anyone that's nominated gets an email from the system saying you've been nominated. And last year you couldn't see what they'd written about you. This year we've changed it so you can see what they've written as to why they've nominated you. And you still then have to go through the entry process and answer all the questions, and then you can upload the evidence. Yeah, sorry. Okay, fab. Are there any other questions from anybody? You can use the Q&A if you want to make it anonymous as well, so you don't have to do it in the public chat box. I know that there are some finalists and winners on the webinar today as well, so it's great to see you guys there. Okay, I think then we will leave it there if there's no more questions. I apologise profusely for the interruption on my side. Mum life, hashtag mum life, whatever that is. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody on the judges panel for your time and for going through your tips and some insights there. Hopefully that's been really helpful for everybody that's joined and everybody that's watching this recording back as well. Much appreciated, and we cannot wait to see your entries very soon. My top tip before I go actually is take your time. I was talking about this last year, so fill in the form. There is a save button. You will get a link from Jotform so you can go back into it. Go back a day later, ask somebody to read it for you, with you, and then submit it once you've done that. Take that sort of 24 to 48 hours to reflect on it, much like you would an important email that's going out to everybody. Yeah, just take that time, give yourself time if you can. Thank you very much.
I want biscuit.
Bye, everybody.